Hello. You join me on a very bright day. I have once again lost the Twizzler, so I can't mount the GoPro again because I'm smart. Where it goes, I have no idea. Oh, get into gear. So, I got a request the other day to explain the UK licensing system. All of this information is readily available online, but I can understand, like, sometimes the graphs that they use aren't exactly the clearest. And I can give you some examples. So what I'm doing, and then what someone in different situations would do. Oh my god, I forgot how bad this road was! So, taking it right from the beginning, everyone in the UK who rides a motorcycle, I think over some people can ride a 50 without doing the CBT, but the vast majority of people on two wheels will have done a CBT, and that is like your starting point no matter what license you're going for. So let's say you are 17, let's say you're 16 actually, you can still do your CBT at 16. You want to gain some independence, get on the road. To do your CBT at 16, after you've done that, you will be able to ride a 50cc bike, which is restricted to around about 30 miles an hour. I'll put the figures on the screen if I mess anything up. You can ride that with L plates on. And that is, I am doing 30 miles an hour! Those bloody speed traps. If you are 17, you can also do the CBT. Well, everyone can. Okay, you're going that way. Right. If you're 17, you do the exact same CBT, 17 or above, and once you've done that, you can ride a 125cc bike with L plates on, and that CBT lasts for 2 years. You can just keep retaking that. You'll need to repurchase the qualification essentially over and over again. But obviously the CBT doesn't change, so once you've done it once, you're pretty much guaranteed to just be able to do it over and over again. And you can do that, and you don't have to change anything, and you're always restricted to a 125cc bike with L plates on front and back, and you are not allowed to go on the motorway or take a pillion. So that is the law. For if you just do your CBT, that stands for compulsory basic training. Lots of people say you can't fail it, and that is true because it's not necessarily a test. But your instructors can ask you to come back a different day. You can do it over multiple days. It all depends on the school. Mine was £170 if I remember right, 175, something along those lines. You're probably looking around that depending on where you are. Different schools will be cheaper or more expensive. Okay, I think I want to go this. Oh, I think I know where I am. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Never gone this way before. Fun fact, I got cut off on this roundabout a couple of days ago by a driving instructor, so that was fun. So you can stay at that level, and you can just continue redoing your CBT every 2 years and be restricted to 125. If you're just using it for like urban commuting, you might not feel the need to go any further. Now there are 3 licenses you can get. So the CBT is technically like, I guess, a certificate, but it doesn't change your license. If you have a provisional license, it remains provisional. I had a full driver's license before taking my CBT, and that stayed the same with my CBT, if that makes sense. To change your license, you have 3 options, and the licenses are A1, A2, and A. Now you might think A1 is above A2, or A is below all of them, but it's not. So A1 is the basic or the lowest level you can get, then you go A2, and then you go A, and A is the top license. All of these, once you've taken them, you don't need to keep retaking any course to remain at that level, but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So let's start with A1. That essentially means you've done a test, your Mod 1 and Mod 2 tests, and you've done a theory test, and you've completed that on a 125cc bike, which allows you to continue riding a 125 without the L plates, and you are now allowed to take a passenger, provided obviously they have a helmet and they can touch the pillion pegs, but that's just the law with pillions, that's not necessarily license specific. And you can go on the motorway. So essentially, you have a full license, but you are restricted to just riding 125s. So that might be useful if you feel no need to go any higher than 125, but you either want to get rid of your rail plates, or you really shouldn't have overtaken that cyclist there, mate. What was I saying? Before that van driver rudely decided to overtake with not one but two cyclists on the road, if you count me. Oh yeah, so let's say you need to either take a passenger on your bike, or you need to go on the motorway, or you're just fed up of retaking your CBT over and over again, or you want to get rid of the L plates because you don't like the look of them. Then you can take the A1 on a 125. That's probably the easiest lot of tests to do on your own bike, because you can legally ride your bike to the test and then just take the rail plates off whilst you... Well, no, you wouldn't. You'd keep the L plates on. So a lot of people call that the pointless license, but it does have its uses. And I'll use my first example. My brother, who was on a 125 with L plates, he couldn't legally go any higher in CCs because of his age. But he needed to go on the motorway and he needed to take a passenger. So he did his A1 test. It also saved him a bit of money because he didn't need to retake his CBT before he did his A2 license. He did that at 16, so he would have had to take another CBT in order to get to his A2 license on time. So it has its uses, but it is considered the most useless motorcycle license out of all of them. You wouldn't really go for that unless you are restricted by age. So you can take a CBT as young as 16 or as young as 17 to be restricted to 125s, but you can't upgrade your license past an A1. You can't ride anything higher than a 125cc until you're 19. Now at 19, a new license bracket opens up for you, and that's the A2 license. So you can do your theory test, your mod 1 and your mod 2. These are all the same tests, each license. The only difference is the bike you do it on. At 19, you can do your mod 1 and mod 2 on an A2 applicable bike. For example, Noxy fits this specification. It's got to be over 249 cc's within a certain weight limit, and obviously it can't exceed the A2 power of 47, I think. Hello. When there's a helmet, we not. So, the A2 license. I will explain the test as well that you do, but we'll do this bit first, because it depends on how old you are, what you want to ride, everything like that. So let's say you're 19 up to 24 or below 24. The A2 license, if you wanted a full license, that's what you'd be going for. So the A2 license, if you haven't already done your CBT, you'll need to do it as part of your course to get into this license. So CBT, theory test, mod 1, mod 2 on an A2 applicable bike. Once you've got your A2 license, you are restricted to any bike that is below 47 horsepower. Now either you can get a bike like Noxy, which is, I mean, she registered as 36 on the dyno, or if you Google it, it's 32 horsepower for a Ninja 250R, which doesn't need to be restricted. Or you can get a bigger bike that can be restricted down to 47 horsepower. Now, you can't restrict any bike you want down to A2. So let's say you've got your eyes on an R6. Well, unfortunately, that has got too much power to restrict. You can't take off more than half a bike's horsepower. That's the rules. So the bike will initially need to have 94 or less horsepower in order to be able to be restricted down to A2. So one of the sport bikes with the highest horsepower you can get for A2 will be the CBR 650R. To make it A2 compatible, you then need to restrict it down to 47. But obviously when you get a bigger bike, you do get a little bit more torque, and you have the ability to unrestrict it once you can pass on to the A license. The A2 license is most useful for people around my age. So either you're just getting into biking like I did at 21 and you want to get a bigger bike, you don't want to be stuck on a 125, so you go for your A2 license, or you're like my brother, who was waiting until he was 19 because he'd already been motorcycling for 2 years at that point, but he couldn't upgrade until he was 19. Now, the last license is the A license, and that is allowing you to ride any bike, unrestricted, no matter the power, right from a 50cc all the way to litre and beyond. If you are 24 or above, you can go for this license straight away, regardless of how much experience you've had on a bike. You can literally turn up to a direct access with absolutely no experience on a bike, and if you're a fast learner, you can go from your CBT all the way to an A license bike within a week or two. So to do your A license, your full A license, again, you need a CBT that's in date, a theory test that's in date, and a mod 1 and a mod 2 pass on an A license bike. What you can't do, even if you're over 24, you can't do your mod 1 or mod 2 test on a bike that isn't fitting within the requirements they give. So let's say you're already riding around on a 125, you can't turn up on a 125 for your exam and get an A license. You will be restricted to an A1 because that's the bike you did your license on. So you will need to get your hands on an A license applicable bike. Now, the most common way of doing this is going through a school. Look at this. Pretty. Okay, so the vast majority of people will pick a license based on how old they are. It won't necessarily be what bike you want to ride, because common sense says if it's the same test for an A1 or an A license, well, if you're old enough, do an A license and then you'll never have to retake the test again. Whereas if you think currently, oh, well, I'm 26, but I only ever want to ride a 125, so I'll do my A1 license and that's easy peasy. And then 4 years down the line you think, actually I want a bigger bike, but you're going to have to go back and do the exact same test but on a bigger bike. And as someone who already needs to redo those tests, I wouldn't recommend it because it's just tiresome. So 16, you can do CVT and ride a 50cc with L plates. 17 to 19, you can do a CVT and ride a 125 with L plates. 19 to 24, you can do your A2 and ride any A2 applicable bike without L plates. And 24 above, you can get a full license and have no restrictions whatsoever. Now, what do you have to actually do in those tests? So your CBT, compulsory basic training, you learn a little bit of highway code. In my opinion, you should have to do a theory test as part of it, but you don't. You just have to learn a few bits, but it's not as severe as revising from a theory test, in my opinion. You need to do some off-road bits, some slow maneuvers on a 125, and you're basically coached how to ride a bike. And then you go on the road and you do a road riding portion, and I think legally you have to do a minimum of 2 hours on the road in order to be able to pass. So you do some slow maneuvers, get used to the feel of the bike. You're not meant to be perfect, you're not going to be perfect in one day. And then you go out on the road and you do some basic stuff like junctions, roundabouts, that kind of stuff. Now, to then progress to your mod 1 and mod 2, you need to do a theory test. Even if you've done a car theory test, you need to do another one for motorcycles. It's relatively the same, apart from a few questions which are more about motorcycle maintenance. But in general, if you've passed your car theory test, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. The main thing you'll have a problem with is the hazard perception. It's a common issue that if you've been on the roads for a while, even if you've just done your CBT, but you've been on the roads for a while, your hazard perception will almost be too good for the test. So you will click a hazard thinking it's a hazard, but the computer says no, it's not a hazard until it starts moving into the road. So you'll have to sort of, the best practice to do is just download one of the theory test revision apps. Most of them are like a £5, and then just get used to clicking the hazard when they want you to click it rather than when you actually see it. It's infuriating, but just get it done. Get your theory test out of the way with, and then you will be on to your mod 1 and mod 2. Now, I'll use my own example now. So I did my CBT, and then a couple of months later I decided I wanted to go to A2 license. So I did my theory test, and then I did my mod 1 and my mod 2. Because I'm under 24, I was 21 when I did my A2. Where do I want to go? Maybe I should, can I go straight ahead? Because I kind of want to get a photo. I've lost my trail of thought, sorry, it's been a little minute. So, I did my A2 license at 21. I've done a year on my A2 license, and then once I've passed 2 years, I can upgrade to an A license through what's called progressive access, not direct access, which is often used for like the courses that the schools do to just take you from nothing to a license of your choice. But progressive access means that you can do your mod 1 and mod 2 again without having to retake your theory. So thanks guys, you've taken the cheapest test and said, oh, you could do that for free. Great. It's alright, you know, it means I don't have to sit in that warm exam room again and click things on a computer. But you still have to retake your mod 1 and mod 2. And the difference being, you need to... Now, where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go? Let's go back this way. Let's go back the way we came. Well, not quite. So instead of doing your test on an A2 applicable bike, you'll now be doing your mod 1 and mod 2 on an A license bike. Once you pass those, congrats, you've got an A license, and you never have to see the exam board again, hopefully. Now, what exactly are those tests? So obviously you've done your CBT, which is like a little bit of slow maneuvers and a car park and then road experience. And you're not necessarily graded on them, like you can make mistakes and you'll be absolutely fine as long as you can show you've got the general gist of it. Whereas your mod 1 and mod 2 are marked. So your mod 1 is slow maneuver stuff, and your mod 2 is road riding. So you do about 30 minutes on the road, and you've got your examiner in an earpiece following you, and they can be on a bike or they can be in a car. It's obviously more common for them to be on a bike, but don't, you know, they may be in a car, don't worry about that, it's not something weird. On the mod 1 you're allowed up to, I think 5 minors is a fail, but up to 5 minors is a pass, and a serious fault is like obviously, you know, stop the test, or fail automatically no matter how many minors you get. I have no idea where I am. Let's go right, let's go to Pittsford. I wanted somewhere to stop, but I didn't really want to stop in that car park because it... Really? I'm not following you. No, absolutely not. I'm not following a salt spreader. Never mind, we're not going Pittsford. What was I saying again? Oh yeah. So up to 5 minors on a mod 1 and you can pass. And then for the mod 2, I will put the correct figures on the screen if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's like 12 or 15 minors you can have and still pass. And obviously you can't have a major fault. Major faults will be something that you do that causes another road user to do something they wouldn't have done. So let's say you cut someone off and they have to emergency brake, and then you've caused a major fault. Whereas, oh my god, look, there's a plane. Whereas, maybe not getting up to speed so much on some of the faster roads would be a minor fault. If you repeat a minor fault too many times, it can turn into a major. But in general, most people find the mod 2 easier to pass than the mod 1, especially if you have been riding around for some time. You will have gained the road experience you need to pass that test, but a lot of us tend to neglect the slow maneuver stuff. I'm sorry if my bike looks like it's going all over the lane. There's a lot of wind. I'm getting battered from the left hand side. So let's take 3 different examples. I'll use my brother, I'll use me, and I'll use someone who is over the age of 24. So, my brother started on a motorcycle when he was 16. He did his CBT on a 50cc scooter. And then when he turned 17, he could upgrade to 125cc. He was restricted to obviously using L plates, not being able to ride on the motorway, and not being able to take a pillion. He was weighing up his options. He would either need to retake his CBT just before he did his A2 license when he was 19, or he could have upgraded his license and never have to redo the CBT again. So he chose to do the A1, and this is where it can be useful for people. So that allowed him, for the last year or so of his A1 or his 125 days, that allowed him to go on the motorway when needed and take a pillion when needed. Now, I wouldn't advise going on the motorway on a 125, but if needs must, it's there. Also, pillion on a 125 probably isn't smart either, because you just end up with basically no power. But again, if you absolutely desperately need to, you're able to. The other main thing is obviously being able to take off your L plates. Be aware that if you are riding a 125 without L plates, you are actually more likely to get stopped by police, because they'll be checking to see if you've got the right license. Also, I've heard people's insurance go up when they take a full license test, but they stay on a 125. I don't know what that's about. Hello! I got a wave! Oh my god. Hey, another one! We've all got white helmets. Good fashion choice. Now, because he did his A1 license, it meant he didn't need to retake his CBT, which would have expired by the time he went to take his A2. So once he turned 19, he did his A2 license, and now he's on his A2 license for 2 years, and at 21 he will be able to upgrade to an A license. So he is the kind of person that will have to do the Mod 1 and Mod 2 3 times, excluding failures as well. So a successful Mod 1 and Mod 2 3 times. I don't actually know whether, oh no, he did fail his Mod 1 a couple of times, but I won't talk about that. It's not through his own fault. It's because the one problem you will have with Mod 1 with on a 125 is it does struggle to get up to the speed limit for the speed traps, and that's an issue he was facing with his Honda. So that's another useful tidbit, so I will include it. I will ask him. I'm sure he doesn't care. Now me, I'd never been on a bike to ride it. I'd been pillion, but I'd never ridden a bike before I was 21. Oh, I suppose I started learning when I was just before 20. Just before 21, sorry. But anyway, I did my CBT at 21. A couple of months later, upgraded to A2. So I've only ever done one CBT, but I will need to retake my tests in 2 years. So I will have done 2 months on CBT, 2 years on A2, then I will upgrade to an A, and once again we'll never have to do another test. Now let's take someone who they've just turned 24 and they think, I want to learn to ride a bike. I've never sat on one before. How hard can it be? And they go to their local school and they say, hi guys, how can I ride a bike? And they go, well, here's how, and here's what you can do. Why is there gravel in the middle of the road? I don't like this. And they say the smartest thing to do is to do our full package, so you can get a full license by the end of it. And you think, fantastic, that's great. So you do your CBT, your theory test, your Mod 1 and your Mod 2. And at the end of all of that, let's say it takes, I've seen some people do it in a week. You can ride whatever bike you fancy, provided you can get the insurance on it. So obviously you might not be able to touch a 2025 like ZX10, but you will be able to probably get your hands on one that's a few years older. So going from absolutely no experience, can you see the bias coming through here? Going from absolutely no experience, you can hop on a litre bike within a week of learning to ride. Congrats. Meanwhile, If you're under the certain age brackets I've mentioned for these licenses, you will have to wait longer. And you can understand why these things are in place, because I do think staggered licenses are a good idea, but I think it should be more on ability rather than age. So I hope that has explained everything as best as I can. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments. But that is the UK licensing structure. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra!